one of the videos that you did a year ago, which is called Change That Is Coming That Hasn't Yet Happened in 100 Years. That video is going viral.
The U.S. dollar is about 60% of the value of all the currency on the planet.
Obviously, it keeps going back to the same stuff you've been telling everybody from the beginning. It starts with this de-dollarization, right?
Mm-hmm. When I was writing, I started uncovering things that just suggested that there is this big currency cycle, and that one day the U.S. dollar will lose its dominance as the world's reserve currency. We have enjoyed this status that it's one of the things that made America so wealthy was if you look at Las Vegas, who wins the most? The house wins.
Yeah.
Right. It's the people that get to run the game. Well, the U.S. has been able to run the world monetary game ever since it used to be England under the classical gold standard, and then in World War I, after World War I, it was sort of a combination of England and the U.S. But then by 1932, England dropped out of the gold standard, and the U.S. was the last man standing, being the clearinghouse for the gold standard. So we were the ones running the game at that point. And then we did something called the Bretton Woods system, which put us in even more control of the entire world monetary system. But every politician that we've had since then has sort of abused these privileges that we've had. We could have been able to play the role of the house in Las Vegas, hosting all of these games with all the other countries on the planet being the people at the blackjack table or whatever, and us being the house. But we abuse this privilege, and we're seeing one country after another trying their best to turn away from the U.S. dollar. But we've got such dominance and such power that it's a very difficult thing to do. But recently, Russia and China have done most of their trade, the vast, vast majority of it. They've bypassed the U.S. dollar, and that's only happened in just the last couple of years.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the central banks are using the U.S. dollar as their reserve currency. And then, of course, the world trades oil priced in dollars. And then one other thing that I learned from your video is more than half of the U.S. dollars are actually outside of the U.S. These are big factors. I don't think a lot of people believe that, it's just a U.S. thing. It's not. It's a worldwide thing, right?
In the short term, we're going to see these spurts where other countries need U.S. dollars to pay down U.S. dollar-denominated debt, and that puts upward pressure. But it's compared to other currencies. So other currencies are just falling faster than if gold is rising and the dollar is rising, but not against gold, it's rising against other currencies. It just means it's not falling quite as fast as the other currencies are falling.
What is it and why is it that people just won't take note? It feels to be like everybody's, still kind of, living on the, on this here, right? Like this cash is trash and paper, and I saw a really funny, obviously we make our own MC Silver here at our company, by the way, and we give these away to our annual people every year. But
awesome.
I find it funny that people think that, that a candy bar is worth more than a silver bar.
Pure silver bullion or a free Hershey's king-size chocolate bar.
Take this one.
You'll take the chocolate bar. Who needs a 10-ounce bar of silver? Right? No. Have a good day.
I don't know if you saw that video, but literally some guy was like, I'll give you a candy bar and I'll give you a silver bar. And people would
that silver bar that he was trying to give away was a 100-ounce bar.
I couldn't believe it, which is right today.
You can have a candy bar, or you can have
$700.
Yeah, right.
Rather have a candy bar.
$100, and people chose the candy bar.
It
Unbelievable.
blows my mind. Why is that?
It's been so long since gold was our money, and we replaced it with fiat currency. And one of the things that I've been sort of on the warpath for since 2007, 2008. When I was writing my book, I was really studying money, just the history of money, everything else. Aristotle was the first person to define the key attributes that something has to have to be called money. It's got to be a medium of exchange, so it's used in trade. It's got to be a unit of account so that you can put a price on things, and it has to be a store of value. On the Federal Reserve's website, it says, first and foremost, it must be a store of value. A dollar used to be worth 1/20th of an ounce of gold. Today it is worth 1/2000th of an ounce of gold. A single-family median price home during the 30s was about $3,000. Today it's $300,000. Did the home change? Did the ounce of gold change? Or did the dollar change? The dollar is losing. The dollar does not store value. Therefore, it does not qualify as money. And no fiat currency does, because we made this shift going from an asset-backed currency or using the asset itself, gold and silver, as money, and it stored value. It could be called money. And we replaced it with a currency that then became a fiat currency, went from being asset-backed to being debt-backed. Once it was debt-backed, if debt is backing it, and you've promised to pay back, if you borrow $1 trillion into existence, but you promise over a 30-year period that you're going to pay back $2 trillion, that second trillion does not exist yet. You have to borrow that into existence in the future to be able to pay it back, but you're promising when you borrow the extra trillion to pay another trillion back. It's this permanent bottomless pit that you get into, and you have to have ever-increasing debt, which means an ever-increasing currency supply. And if you've got more and more units of currency chasing after the same quantity of goods and services, it means that prices have to go up. It isn't the goods and services that change, it's the currency. And the currency is the currency that we use today. All the national fiat currencies are not money, and people need to learn the difference. And it's very important. I think Confucius said that the beginning of understanding is calling things by their proper name.
We're starting to see these sanctions. You know, you talk about the SWIFT accounts, which is, you know, we did that to Russia, and certainly we've done that to Iran. And, and these are all countries that are now fighting against the use of the dollar, right? So where do you see all this playing out now? Because a lot of people are just focusing on the money that we're printing at home.
BRICS countries slowly turning away from the U.S. dollar, and Russia and China being able to do almost all of their trade bypassing the U.S. dollar. These are some of the things I used to keep track of, following what I called the death of the global dollar standard. And I know it's going to come to an end someday. It's just that when that day arrives, I do not know. I know that it's a process that's very, very slow until the day that it isn't slow. And then it comes very quickly. The dollar being the global reserve currency has given us this privilege that Charles de Gaulle talked about. I think that was a 1966 press conference that he gave, where he gave it the term the exorbitant privilege that the U.S. dollar has, that all these countries have to use this currency that the U.S. can just print. And he said, how can there be any objective standard other than gold? This is going to end up one day as a real calamity. We're on the road there. As we lose this world reserve currency status, we lose the ability right now, when we inflate, half of the dollars that exist, more than half, exist outside the borders of the United States, simply because all of the trading houses, they're held as reserve currency by foreign central banks. And then in the SWIFT system, and in the if oil is settled in dollars and somebody is buying and selling oil in a foreign country and it's settled in dollars, they're using dollars outside of the United States. And so you've got all of these dollars residing outside the United States. If we inflate in the United States and create more dollars, some of that inflation is going to affect us at home, but it's also stolen purchasing power. You inflate the currency supply, and these brand new units of currency that you typed into existence get their purchasing power by diluting the currency supply and stealing a little bit of wealth from everybody holding dollars, including the people outside the United States. And so we are able to transfer minuscule amounts of wealth at a time, but in the aggregate, this adds up to a huge tax on the rest of the world. We get to inflate and dilute their purchasing power and transfer the difference to us. It's one of the things that has made the U.S. such a wealthy country, and it is a privilege that we have had and could have had for another 100 years if our politicians hadn't abused this. But you can see, I mean, you don't know when the train is going to hit us, but we are tied to the tracks, and it's coming. You can see it.
Hey, great seeing you. And as always, I'll see you in August. I've been in business for 33 years, and these are some of the top lessons that I have learned. But I think the most important things that you guys need to learn is from my own mistakes so that you don't have to. And that's why I just made a video on the most important mistakes that I've ever made. Check that out here.